Hello, this is Hot Indonesia, where we focus in on the fuzzy picture. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Here is this week's HI Hot List. 60-year friendship. How relevant are Asia-Africa ties? Banning booze. Is a parliament plan needed or nonsense? And childhood dreams, how a statue of a young Gus Dur will inspire young people. Speaking of Gus Dur, one of my co-hosts knew him pretty well. Yenny Wahid is the second daughter of the fourth president of Indonesia and director of the Wahid Institute. Sarah's out. Sitting in this week is Bonnie Triyana, editor-in-chief of Historia Magazine and Van Halen fan. Hot topic number one, 60-year friendship. It was a response to the Cold War East-West divisions in 1955. Indonesia's founding father believed nations in Asia and Africa needed a common voice and brought together 25 countries for the Bandung Conference. They included China, Afghanistan, and Sudan, among others, and friendships formed 60 years ago remain strong. You know, the anniversary event, of course, began this week in Jakarta, running through April 24th, ending in Bandung. It's always nice to look back and think about what we created here, but that was then, and this is now. So many people ask, is this so-called South-South axis relevant and even important today?
Well, I would say that it's even taken a more relevant importance now, you know, because with the geopolitical dynamics in the world and the shift of, you know, many dynamics in political world, I think we ought to see this conference as maybe as an avenue for renewed, I suppose, stance on issues that matters then, you know, like a peaceful coexistence and how to resolve regional disputes, territorial integrities and all that, all the things that are now brewing in some parts of the world. You know,
Africa is a source of a lot of conflict. I mean,
absolutely,
peace is a problem there. I mean, Bonnie, as a historian, I mean, I know you appreciate this kind of event, but does it have significance in the world today? Because
one thing we have to remember of this Asian African Conference is the core principle of Bandung Conference. The core principle of Bandung Conference were interference in internal affairs, and then mutual respective, and then also about how to solve the problem of decolonization in African country. So I think Sukarno and also other leaders of the developing countries at that time, they were thinking about how to solve the colonization problem both in Asian countries and also in Africa. So they think how to, you know, how to liberate people from colonization.
And that was probably the main result of the first conference, giving people hope.
The backdrop of the Cold War, the Cold War era. So you know, there were many things at stake there, and the United States were not, they felt not easy with the whole thing, because you know they would have I think I read that they would have taken they were afraid that they would have taken a rather aggressive stance on their European partners if they side with the conference.
And they banding together to avoid being forced to take part of the Cold War context. East or West.
Now, Asia has emerged as the driver in the global order, the global economic situation, while much of Africa has remained stuck in civil conflict. Why and when did this divergence take place? I mean, in 1955, they were maybe at an equal footing, but Asia took off and Africa remained there. What happened?
I think, interestingly, this is just my humble opinion, I think Japan plays a role here because of Japan's remorse after the World War and what they did. They played, they came out with a policy of helping, you know, countries with post-reconstructive era of the war. you know, so it's they putting so much money and aids into some countries, especially Asian countries, and
so Japanese foreign aid helped drive.
Probably, I mean, this just again, it's just my observation. It could, I mean, a historian would have would need to verify that, but I think that also in a way helped.
And Africa did not have an economic power, rising power like that.
I think the internal conflict among them is become a big problem, big issue after the conference, because the impact of the Asian African conference are, you know, there are a lot of people movement to help African people to liberate themselves. But after they have independent country, there was a internal conflict among them.
Oh, I see. So after they got rid of their colonial master, then people in that country started fighting. Asia
got luckier because we were preoccupied with our own man, you know, but strong man within our own nations. But at least, you know, these people, these leaders brought stability in Asia that enabled us to catch up with economic growth in a way.
Yeah, you know, a country like South Africa, you mentioned the countries inspired by the conference. South Africa was not a participant in the first conference. Yeah. Strictly an observer, but that inspired South Africa to take its steps. And Nelson Mandela became a...
Yeah. There were two observers from African National Congress, Moses Kotane and Molvi Chakalia. And they came to Bandung to see the conference. And one of the important things from this conference was Sukarno gave his support, fully support to African leader, national or liberation movement. For an example, Algiers, Lakhdar Brahimi, and now he is one of the senior diplomat in United Nations. Still advisor to General Secretary of United Nations for Syria issue. He was here in Jakarta. He lived here in 1959 until 1961. He lived in Menteng because Sukarno gave him an office.
So direct support.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lakhdar later on, after the Algerian people success to get the liberation from France, Lakhdar became the first foreign minister of Algiers.
Wow. Okay, so he has some roots in Indonesia. The last point now, Africa is rich in natural resources, as we know, similar to that of Indonesia. But do we need here in Indonesia to be maybe proactive in helping develop or offering our help to African nations? Indonesia often serves as a mediator in conflicts, you know, in the Middle East. We offer, but we don't seem to be making that kind of proactive gesture in Africa. Is there a reason for that, or we have too many fires, too many hands, and too many fires?
I think there are some sort of economic cooperations within the countries, but not an ideal level yet. But I think Africa, that traditionally the colonial masters, you know, that used to colonize Africa, are seen to be having more responsibility in fixing the problems. So Indonesia, well, of course, Indonesia has always had our own problems in our own backyards, you know, to deal with. So I think for the expectation for Indonesia to help Asian nations, African nations is quite low.
Okay.
Yeah, and Indonesia has always been putting our own focus on more on Asian countries.
Yeah, of course, it's closer to home. Okay, this conference wraps up April 24th in Bandung. Hot Indo will continue shortly. Will Indonesia really ban booze? You're watching Hot Indonesia with Yenny, guest host Bonnie Triyana, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, banning booze. A bill has begun to make its way through Parliament that would prohibit the production, distribution, and consumption of alcohol in this country. Violators would face prison time and fines. The Jakarta Post reports that sponsors of the bill say a ban is needed to fight crime and protect public health. Okay, it's far from becoming law yet.
How's your love life going to withstand
You know,
this?
I've lived life and love naturally.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't need stimulant. You know, this bill is far from becoming law, and I will argue later it probably never will be, but critics say that this is another worrying sign of Indonesia turning more conservative, because the parties pushing the bill are the Islamic parties, the PKS, PPP. I mean, you know, they're thinking we're becoming very Islamic and very religious.
Some people even say this is a creeping Islamization of the country. And, you know, at times this is politically motivated. This is, you know, the morality.
It's come up before, you know.
It's come up before and everywhere. And it's always been, you know, it's the politics of symbolism. It's, you know, either booze and then headscarves for girls. But it's just that, you know, it's just for the Islamic factions to declare victories, you know.
And appease their constituents.
The constitution might not be demanding this, you know. Their constitution, there's some of the constitution might be
consuming
some
this.
Beneficiaries of the.
We can see the historical background because we also have the same story in the late colonial era. The government of Netherlands India, or Indonesia now, established a committee to ban alcohol.
The Dutch government wanted to ban the makers of Heineken.
But they failed. Commissie Anti-Alcohol.
Why did they do that?
Moral standard.
Okay.
But they did that not on behalf of Islam. They just want to take control of the alcohol.
And as you know, when you try to legislate morality, it doesn't work. America tried prohibition, it didn't work.
Prohibition, exactly. Yeah. Prohibition. But it's exactly the same method of working, in my opinion, political process. I mean, a small bunch of people trying to put a pressure on the politicians to look morally pious, and but it worked because they're targeting the certain segments of the society. Is, you know, the politicians who have to have you need to look good and pious and all that, but the same method. So a majority of the people might not be in support of this, especially the business sectors.
The silent majority.
Don't blame booze. Enforce the law.
Enforce the law.
and Bonnie, historically, again, we go back to the historian. Alcohol has played a role in this country in various cultures. Different parts of the country, they have their own specific regional alcohol, like Brembali or Tuak in
traditional alcohol. I have a very interesting story from Haji Agus Salim.
Right.
He is the very prominent diplomat of Indonesian Republic of Indonesia. He always consumed Jennifer or wine. Wine.
Okay.
1 glass every day.
And some people say that's healthy, medically.
Healthy reason.
Doctors say red wine is good for you.
Haji Agus Salim.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Right.
He drank wine.
So it's
every day.
It's a good thing if you believe doctors. You know, as we said, you know, prohibition didn't work in the United States. What it did was create problems. You got a black market. You got a few people making a lot of money and related issues. So, you know, business is affected. Business is definitely, and the tourist areas. But from
Bali and Manado and all those places.
But the sponsor of this bill said there would be exemptions for people like in Bali and for 5-star hotels. They would make exemptions. So you can imagine if it passes, everybody would be in the 5-star hotel drinking. But you step outside, you get fined or you get arrested, which is crazy.
It's really honestly. I mean, what about, you know, places like Jogja, for example? I mean, you've got you know, it's
tourist areas. Maybe that would qualify for an exemption.
Exactly. Also, you know, Bandung is also So, you know, it really. I don't really think that the local leaders would dare to try to, you know, support it, and not support it, but try to get an exemption, even though, you know, it's possible, because they don't want to be seen as supporting and alcohol selling activities. So it's
well, we talked about this past couple weeks about the mini mart ban, right? The beer, and now this is the next step. I don't think this will pass. I mean, this actual bill came up in 2012. It was tabled, so.
In the parliament.
Yeah, there's no way it'll pass. I mean, not that I advocate alcohol, but it doesn't make sense to me from business, and also, again, you can't legislate morality. The health issues, hey, we're all adults.
What's ironic is that the fact that actually this government is supposed to be a secular government that actually pass on these kind of regulations. It's quite ironic to me.
Bonnie, do you think this has a chance of passing? Do you think this will go from your expertise in history?
I don't think so. I'm not sure because the regulation itself mentioned that if people consume or put the alcohol for just healthy reason, they can send to jail.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And that's why I'm making a joke. If this regulation was already launched in 1945, so we have to send Agus Salim to jail.
Right. Or in the case of Malaysia, someone was canned because he or she was found guilty of drinking beers in public and canned. Can you imagine if that happened here?
No, that'll never happen. We talk about it. You're right.
It would happen to you every day, right?
Yeah, jeez. What? You
Nothing you can do if you hang over, I think.
Was that?
Nothing you can do if you hang over. No?
Hangover. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay. More Hot Indo is ahead. Inspiring the kids to think presidential. That's the goal of this statue. You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Here's hot topic number 3, childhood dreams. A young boy who lived in Jakarta's Menteng area probably never dreamed what was ahead for him. But great things was destined for Abdurrahman Wahid, and he grew up to be a beloved president. To honor that story, a statue of a young Wahid will be unveiled on April 25th to serve as an inspiration to other kids. And now that bronze statue joins another that went up in the same district 5 years ago. You remember that story?
Obama.
A young Barack Obama stands tall at his former school. And a disclosure, I'm one of the organizers of both projects with business leader Ron Mullers, and proud to say, no, Yenny, it deserves it. And again, it's for the children. Where exactly will the statue be?
At the Taman Amir Hamzah.
Okay.
It's in front of the house that Gus Dur grew up when he was a kid.
And so near the Wahid Institute.
The house, we use that as our office now. So Gus Dur grew up there, so he played football around that area. So,
it's funny that two presidents of two countries grew up in the same area, which is
right.
Have you ever heard about the story of Gus Dur teacher? He is now living in Holland, Ibrahim Isa.
Okay.
And he is one of the prominent activists of Asian African People Solidarity Organization.
Oh, he's still alive?
He's still alive, 85 years old.
Which stemmed from the Bandung conference. I mean, he was inspired.
Yeah, because after the Bandung conference, there were a lot of People Solidarity Organization, and one of the activists is Ibrahim Isa. Ibrahim Isa was a teacher in KRIS School, Kebaktian Rakyat Indonesia Sulawesi, where Gus Dur attended the elementary school,
Elementary school, with Rima Melati.
With Rima Melati.
Really?
And Bayong, yes.
Okay. Bonnie, the childhoods of most of our presidents were not privileged, correct? I mean, most came from average families.
Oh yeah, my dad had to work to support the family because my grandfather passed away in a very young age.
Yeah.
So my grandmother was carrying her 6th child, pregnant with 6th child when her husband passed away. So Gus Dur had to support the family business in a way. He used to climb on top. My grandma sold rice, so they would he would send young Abdurrahman to go in a truck with the staff to fetch the rice, sacks and sacks of rice from Karawang, be brought back to Jakarta.
The statue which we just saw images of is him as about a 5 or 6 year old, and we show him reading a book because it wants to inspire kids to read. Your father is known as someone, and you are too, for embracing all Indonesians regardless of race or religion. Where did he get that from?
I think one of the earliest influence was from one of his the teachers, a German guy actually, a Muslim convert German guy who lived around the neighborhood, who introduced him to classical music. So and also I think he another experience came from his period in Iraq, in Baghdad, where he befriended some Jewish friends, Jewish people, and then one day he found one of his friends were crying, and he asked them why, and he said, my friends, my family members or whatever, were hanged at the square by the order of Saddam Hussein for a crime that they didn't do. So it was just a politically motivated,
so his upbringing, different experiences contributed to what he did as a president. You know, Bonnie, what is your lasting image of Gus Dur as an Indonesian and as a historian? What do you think his legacy will be, especially to children?
Gus Dur is anti-discrimination. I mean, he is the, what do you call it, the plural father and pluralism, and he is the one who introduced people about how to think Indonesia more, open. Because before Gus Dur became president, there's a Chinese riot in 1998, and Gus Dur said that, okay, the Chinese people is part of us, so we cannot do bad things to them.
So that's
even
something
that it's got Chinese blood. We've got Chinese blood now.
Do you?
Well, that's what my father said.
Okay, in Semarang, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he said that in Semarang.
we're descended of the princess of Champa.
So confirmation that the Wahids are part Chinese.
Yes, part Chinese. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably a quarter of blood.
Very good. Okay, so the statue ceremony is on the 25th in the morning at the park, and we'll all be there.
Looking forward to that.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. It is feedback time now.
Yes.
And
thank you.
We do read what you send. Maymun tweeted this. Miss Dalton on Sunday mornings. Well, that was when my former program ran on another channel. Maymun, you can now find me and all of us on weekend nights, Jakarta time, here on Hot Indonesia. If you have any feedback on what you've heard or would like to suggest a topic for us to tackle, please email us at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com or comment through our Indonesia channel, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Final words, Bonnie.
Love your country, love your history. That's only things what in my mind now.
Short but sweet. Love your country, love it, because you learn
from history.
and you go forward. Okay, final words, Yenny.
Well, I've met many smart people who could have become brilliant if they're not so hung up with their being so smart. So, and as we know now that being smart alone is not enough. Being kind is also very important. So with that, I'd like to ask all of us just to make today be a be kind day.
Be kind to your fellow humans.
Yeah,
instead of be kind to your dog day. Okay. My final words. It wasn't surprising when a political party chairman told one of her members to follow the party line, but that member happens to be the president, and his obligation is to the country. The people must come before politics, and we are watching, Mr. President. That is Hot Indonesia for Yenny and Bonnie. I'm Dalton Tanonaka. See you again next time.